it's time once again for Once More with Feelings. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth.
And we are going to talk about the movie Moonstruck. This was originally released in December of 1987 and in a limited release, and then it was re-released in 1988. It was directed by...
Well, not re-released.
Not re-released.
It was just released nationwide.
Oh, okay, so limited in 87 and then...
Right. In 1987, they did a limited release.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 1988, January of 1988, they did a nationwide release.
Okay.
I'm not really sure why they did that, but I think a lot of movies did at the time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Did a limited release in their area to see how it would play, and if it was popular, they would release it out nationwide.
Well, and that's funny because I didn't write this in my notes, but I remember reading in my note when I was doing my research that originally it was the theme in the beginning was from La Boheme, that it didn't have a good people just didn't respond well to it. So that's why they changed it to Dean Martin's That's Amore.
And that's the one I would recognize as being Italian, quintessential Italian.
Yes.
Which La Boheme would not be that appealing because it's more of about suffering.
Yes.
Kind of weird. Yeah.
So
okay, so
Moonstruck.
the IMDb for Moonstruck is Loretta Castorini.
Yes,
She's my resident Italian expert because she's lived among them.
I have lived amongst the Italian Americans, and so I feel an expert. Thought I was more Italian my whole entire life because I grew up amongst the Italian Americans. And then we did DNA tests a few years ago, and turns out I'm only 8% Italian.
She's mostly Portuguese.
I am not mostly Portuguese. I'm 2%, and I don't even know which side that comes from. It's got to be my dad's side, but I don't know how.
Probably near your toe.
Yes.
But
I was raised amongst... the Italian last names were thick and heavy, and unfortunately watching this movie, my Jersey accent will be coming out, and I won't mean it to, but it's that New York, New Jersey call to me of my upbringing, unfortunately.
My accent will stay exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because...
Yes.
Loretta Castorini, a bookkeeper from Brooklyn, New York, finds herself in a difficult situation when she falls for the brother of the man she has agreed to marry. Dun dun dun!
Dun dun dun!
I mean, not really dun dun dun. Moonstruck is a movie that I saw in the theaters, and I remember it distinctly because it was one of those movies that I saw before I left for the military, but it was far enough before that I still felt like a kid. I was just in the process of graduating. So this was in the year that I graduated, 1988. That's the year I graduated. And in January of 88, I think it was actually in February or March that I saw this movie in the theater. And it was one of those funny kind of movies that I didn't pay a lot of attention to. I kind of wish I'd paid more attention to it. I had a date, wasn't paying attention. I
did not see this in the theater. A lot of the 80s movies I didn't see in the theater. Yay, HBO. Coming with that basic cable package.
The way we watched our movies back then.
I remember I really did like this movie. I felt... because of being raised in families very, very similar to Loretta's, it resonated with me. I was younger, obviously. I was just going into high school when I saw this. Well, I think I didn't see it when it first came out. I think I saw it in high school, but I was definitely not a freshman because I was a freshman in 88. I don't remember... how I didn't hate it. I just loved this movie, and I remember that I did resonate with the characters, not so much because, being an old man or anything like that. Just, like I said, it was the family. The scene when they're in the kitchen and Johnny Camarera comes in and he sees them all sitting around the table. I have images of walking into and seeing my whole family sitting around a table. We were really close at one time. And when my grandfather was alive, who was half Italian man that he was, um, he kept the family together. And I remember he had taken a huge piece of plywood and bolted it to a dining room table and then covered it with multiple tablecloths, those plastic lined tablecloths,
Right.
with the fabric on the other side. And that was where we all ate, because at one time there were at least 13 or 14 of us living in one house. My cousin's house had burnt down and they were living with us. My uncle and his wife and their newborn, my mom and my stepdad and my sister and my cousin. It was just so many people living in that house at one time. I think my Uncle Giulio lived with us at one time. Yeah, it was crazy.
So you had that quintessential New Jersey, New York, Italian family dynamic.
Yes. And we were huge at one time. Like I said, it was a big family.
I did not experience that growing up. Mine was more of if you had one person at the dinner table, you were probably lucky. During dinners, sure, there were maybe 4 of us.
Yeah.
At the most.
Well, he worked a lot. So he went between New York and New Jersey all the time.
Right.
And so when he was in New Jersey on the weekends, we had to eat dinner with him. So that was like a huge, huge thing. I blame a lot of my weight issues on my grandfather, because he would put food on my plate and then he would, like, if I didn't finish it, he'd tell me my eyes were bigger than my stomach. It's like, I didn't put this on my plate. I'm 7.
The entire finish your plate scenario.
Yes. But I wanted to make sure he was happy. I love that man. So yes, this movie has it pulls a lot of my heartstrings. And also it's Cher. And I love Cher. I really do. I mean, I'm not like obsessive Cher fan, but I love her music.
What I say during the entire movie.
You don't think she's a great actress?
I don't think she's a great actress, but she is beautiful.
Oh, she's beautiful. I
said that during the entire movie. At the first of the movie, I said, not a great actress. And she's not.
No, I mean,
I don't
think she's a great actress, but I think she's a good actress.
I think for this movie, she's a good actress. I think she grew into being an actor as she progressed.
So I have a few. So let's go through the cast and we'll see how many of our favorite movies we picked.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So for Cher, who played Loretta, the thematic lead.
Okay, so what were your 3 other movies that she has been in that you enjoyed?
Mask.
I have Mask on
Mask
here.
Mask was my quintessential, because she was the hard-ass mother who loved her son.
Mm-hmm.
I loved that role for her.
She kind of less biker, but reminded me a lot of your mom.
Yeah.
Yes, your mom was not the biker, but definitely had that hard-ass personality.
And would take on anyone for their children.
Oh, definitely.
So, my 3, Mask, The Witches of Eastwick.
Yes, that's on there. That's my, yep. 87.
Almost all of these are going to be in the 80s.
Well, yeah.
And Mermaids.
See, and now I have a hard time with Mermaids, but I felt like that was such a sad movie.
It was.
And I really have a hard time watching sad movies.
It was sad, but I liked the movie. I felt moved by the movie.
If someone tells me that a movie is sad and is going to make me cry, I can't watch it, which is why I've never seen Beaches.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because they told me
we'll
how...
have a first-time watch.
I also have Silkwood on here.
Silkwood was
Silkwood was a good movie.
I was trying to keep it to 3 for any...
Well, yeah, those were my 3. Silkwood, Mask, and Witches of Eastwick.
Nice.
So for Nicolas Cage, who has way too many movies for his own good, I have Peggy Sue Got Married.
Good one.
City of Angels.
Okay.
And my guilty pleasure, National Treasure. I love National Treasure.
So I have 3 that are not the same.
Okay.
Although one is. So I have Vampire's Kiss.
Okay.
From 88, which he was busy during this time.
He really was.
Raising Arizona from 87.
I have feelings about Raising Arizona, so I really...
Yeah. And of course we have the same one at the end there. So
okay, so City of Angels?
Yeah. Because City of Angels to me was
Again,
love
sad,
story
though.
that kicks you in the ass at the end.
Oh my God. It kicks you in the chest so hard. It's
And
like,
my love of the movie Michael. I'm an atheist, and I love both of those movies.
I know.
It's weird, right?
I know.
I also love, and this is a not appearing in this, but he is heavily featured.
Mm-hmm.
The episode in Community in which Abed portrays Nicolas Cage because he has a breakdown.
Sir, not appearing in this film.
So that's an honorable mention.
So for Olympia Dukakis, you're all going to hate me for this. Look Who's Talking.
Oh my God, really?
I love Look Who's Talking. It's so stupid and I love it.
Okay.
I have Steel Magnolias because how dare me to not have Steel Magnolia.
Right.
But the third one, I actually have never seen and I want to see it. I added it on here as a note to myself to watch. It's called Cloudburst.
I've never seen it.
She plays a woman who is in love with another woman, and they both escape their nursing home to leave and move to Canada to get married.
Oh my God, that's
I know.
beautiful.
I want to see that. She did that in 2011.
Okay, so I want to see that now.
Okay.
I don't have movies listed for her. Here's the problem I have with Olympia Dukakis.
A lot of TV.
She's been in every bloody thing, and everything she does, she's brilliant in. So I didn't make any, but I do have Steel Magnolias because that is a classic among classics.
Yes.
And of course, she's in Moonstruck.
Yes. Well, Moonstruck, yeah.
She always plays herself, I think. She's one of those people that plays herself in every role and pulls it off every single time.
Yeah.
I don't think she goes against her own character.
Well, you know, what's funny is that when they were casting this, she was not a first choice to play her Cher's mother. And in a lot of cases, they were like, the director, Norman,
she is Greek.
She is Greek, but Norman Jewison, he was like, well, he thought she was too much of a character actor.
Yeah.
And so, but I think
I can see that.
But I think she did perfectly.
But she doesn't play against type. She fits the role for herself.
Yes. So the side note about the director, though, Norman Jewison, he also did Fiddler on the Roof and Jesus Christ Superstar, the movies.
Yes. Very true.
In 71 and 73. What do you have for Mr. Danny Aiello?
Danny Aiello, who is just, he was a fixture all through the 80s and 90s. So it's someone you're going to see his face and go, I've seen him in everything.
Yes.
He is these are all prolific actors.
Oh, definitely.
Every one of these people have been in the game for years and have done nothing but movies, and Danny Aiello is no exception to it. He was the nightclub owner in the Jack Ruby biopic, Ruby, and he was the assassin of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Oh, okay.
And that was in 1992. That's something I remember seeing him in and going, wow, he had a pretty specific role. A lot of times he's used as a secondary, which he kind of is in this as well.
He is, yeah.
Then he had the lead role in The Pickle. And I thought that was funny because you never see him in a satire.
I've never seen
The
Pickle.
And this is one of the few satires I've seen him in.
Oh, okay.
And he was also in the short film Lieberman in Love. And that was in 1995.
Okay. I have Hudson Hawk in 91. Jacob's Ladder in 90. Jacob's Ladder is a deep movie.
I was in the military then. I didn't see a lot during that time.
Yeah. No, I didn't see this one until later, but that's a trip. That's a movie you've got to be mentally prepared to watch.
Okay.
But my personal favorite is not a movie, nor is it a TV show.
Play?
He was the father in Madonna's video for Papa Don't Preach.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Holy crap. Yeah, that's true.
Now
I'm picturing it. I'm picturing it in my head now.
So, Vincent Gardenia.
He was the papa in which she didn't want him to preach.
I know. Danny Aiello. He popped it all over that preach. or preached a lot. What? So Vincent Gardenia, he was in the movie The Super with Joe Pesci. Sorry,
That's one I've got.
Yes, but my favorite role of ever of his, not my favorite role, but my favorite movie
That he was in
was Mr. Mushnick in Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He was Mr. Mushnick.
I completely didn't get that. I only have that one, so I don't have any others. For the parents, only did one each, and because they're such they've been in the game for so long, they have so many roles.
I just did ones I loved or that I knew. But okay, so I didn't keep going, but I did do John Mahoney.
Wow.
So okay. John Mahoney, you know him from Frasier. He was in Say Anything. I don't remember him being in Say Anything, but
Anything. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember.
He was also in The American President.
Did it tell you the role?
It did, but I didn't write it down because why would I do that?
I mean, he is a very ancillary character. He's a tertiary character, I would say.
Okay.
He's not even in a B story. He's in a D story.
He does a lot of voice acting. Well, he did a lot of voice acting. And we're going to talk about some deaths in a few minutes too. And ages, because I always find that
Unfortunately,
fascinating.
it's a human experience that we can't avoid because these are older films.
Yes. But he did a lot of voice work, and he was in The Iron Giant. He played, I believe, the military leader who goes after the Iron Giant.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. I've never seen The Iron Giant.
Oh, that's a good movie. And we were talking the other day.
Sad.
So we weren't talking about this on the podcast, but we were talking about, I mentioned, oh my gosh, I forgot his name now. When we were doing the Michael Bublé thing, who did I mention? Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah.
Harry Connick Jr. is also one of the voices in The Iron Giant.
Just never got a chance to see it.
And
I heard it was sad.
It is sad, but it's...
So when someone tells me a movie is sad...
I don't want to watch it. Throw that back at me.
I only want to watch it if I'm in the mood to be sad, and generally it'll be something I already did as a go-to, you know.
Well, he is in my... Oh, gosh. See, I have two favorite of all-time Disney movies. I have a lot of ones that I love, but there are two animated movies that I love. He was in one of my two favorites. He played Preston Whitmore, the rich, eccentric explorer, I guess, in Atlantis.
I knew you were going to say Atlantis.
What's my other favorite Disney movie? And it's not a princess movie.
Okay, because you have a lot.
I know.
A lot of favorite Disney
I do have a lot of favorite Disney movies, but like my most...
Lilo and Stitch.
No? No. That one's cute, but no.
Harry and the Hendersons? Is that a Disney movie?
No.
I think he's a princess.
It is an H name, though.
You're going to have to tell me.
Hercules.
Oh, I didn't think that was a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm. And the reason...
I'm not a Disney file, so I don't know all the Disney movies.
There's two reasons why I love that movie.
Because of Warburton?
Is
he in it?
No, he's not in that one.
How am I going to know?
He's in The Emperor's... How have you not seen... I know you watched it with me.
I've not seen Hercules.
Now we have to watch Hercules.
I saw the one where Warburton was in it with...
Yes, that's The Emperor's New Groove.
Yes, I've seen that one. It was good.
Yes.
I liked it.
Hercules, the reason why I love Hercules is two reasons. One is the music, the gospel music, and that the muses, or the chorus they're just, I love it. But also... because the person who did a lot of the art design in that movie was Gerald Scarfe, and Gerald Scarfe did the art for Pink Floyd in The Wall.
Oh, okay.
And I have a weird love of that.
There you go. So now that we've got most of the cast out of the way.
Yes. I would like to quickly, before we get on to our feeling, there's so many things in my notes too. Ages. I'd like to talk about ages.
Oh my God, because you're going to talk about the flip between Nick and Cher.
The flip?
There's a flip. Let's just go ahead and get that out of the way. So Cher, 42 years old at the time.
42?
Nicolas Cage.
I have her at 55.
No, she was 42 during filming.
Huh.
Maybe Nicolas Cage was 24.
Yeah, she was 18 years older than him.
Yeah, there was a flip. 24 and 42. I think it's Kismet.
Okay, so now I really am questioning all my numbers here because I have 55 and 37. But
look, we are looking things up on Google. I don't know that anything is entirely accurate.
So yeah, there was 18 years difference between Cher and Nicolas Cage, and it's that's just creepy.
I mean, it is creepy, but she is beautiful.
She wanted Nicolas Cage. Now, he did not impress the studios when he auditioned. Actually, they were looking at Peter Gallagher.
Oh, yeah, that would have been good.
And no, she said she wouldn't do the movie without him.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Unusual.
I know. I agree.
I mean, Nicolas Cage at the time was probably at his peak of physical beauty.
He was kind of weaselly.
He was Weasley, but he was built.
Yeah, well, he had to be slinging that biscuit dough around with one hand.
I don't know why they had him sweaty and jacked at the very start of it.
I know.
Because it's not like it was needed.
I don't want people sweating in my bread.
Wasn't
Ew.
needed for the film.
I don't want to know this.
I mean, they acted like he's down there shoveling all day, but really he's just... I mean, yeah, bakers sweat.
Yes.
They do.
So
I don't want to see it, though.
Now, Olympia Dukakis passed away at 89 years old when in 2021. She actually, I didn't know she was from Lowell, Massachusetts. A lot of my family's from Lowell, Massachusetts.
You think she's family?
No. Well, I don't have
Are you trying to lay claim to
the
Dukakis?
I do have Greek.
Are you trying to lay claim to the Dukakis fortune?
No.
Because it's been hidden and only Nicolas Cage knows where it is on a map that he's got on the back of the Declaration.
Don't make fun of my choices.
I'm not. That was a good movie. It was funny.
I liked it.
It was the Mummy of Independence Day.
It really was.
Of Independence
Day.
Of Independence Day. I don't know why I said that.
Well, again, I on my grandmother's side, I have a lot of family up who are from Lowell, Massachusetts, and I think that's pretty cool. That she's from there.
We're going to look into that and see if you can lay claim.
No, I don't want to lay claim to it. I don't want any of the Dukakis estate. Thank you very much.
Because they will bury you.
But it does not say how she passed away. It just said that she was in hospice, that she had been ill and she had gone to hospice. Danny Aiello, he passed away when he was 86 in 2019. He had an infection. Vincent Gardenia passed away he was 72 and he passed away in 1992. He had a heart attack. And John Mahoney passed away when he was 77 in 2018 from lung cancer.
Okay.
I just felt it was important.
It is an older film.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about people that were already either at their peak or beyond their peak of their profession.
Yes.
So we're talking about things that are going to happen, which, death is inevitable. But we honor them by watching their movies and remembering their ability, their skill, and the craft that they dedicated their lives to.
Oh, definitely. And again, I felt like it was just important to share that little tidbit.
Let's start out. We got Dean Martin blaring his dulcet tones about love, amore, and pie.
And pie.
Because, without pizza pie, you can't get hit in the eye with amore.
I'm not going to sing it, y'all. I
put those words out of order, but I think it stands on its own.
I was actually trying to find the parody that I have somewhere written down, and it's a parody, and it's multiple lines, and they all kind of have the same thing, but the only one I could find was the one about the eel.
Oh, I thought it was the one about the butts.
The butts.
Yeah, it's the butts.
Okay. So the theme, I think, with this film,
the moon.
It really is, though. It really is. So what is the meaning of Moonstruck? When you hear that someone is moonstruck, it basically, it means that they're affected by the moon.
Yeah, it's a discombobulation caused by the moon, right?
Yes. Now, the movie wasn't actually supposed to be called Moonstruck.
What was it supposed to be called?
The Bride and the Wolf.
I knew that. You know how I knew that? Because they talk about the wolf in the movie.
They do talk about the wolf in the movie.
And they didn't take it out.
They did not take it out.
Because it's important.
Mm-hmm.
Because it plays into the theme.
So now, that one actor I didn't name because, honestly, I don't want to butcher his name. And it is the gentleman who played the grandfather. And he and I have a commonality. That we are both
Dukakis family? Oh, come on. I'm just trying to help you out.
Family. Selenophiles. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but we are both selenophiles. You're looking at me like I've lost my mind.
I'm sorry, this is a podcast. Wah-wah?
Wah-wah? Okay. So, we're both obsessed with the moon.
I thought you were saying you were both invested in the singer Selena.
I mean, yes.
That's what I was assuming because she's fantastic.
Amazing. I mean, bringing Tejano music to the main stage.
So you were both Moonphiles.
Yes, we are both.
You just wanted to say it
Selenophiles.
fancy.
I do want to say it fancy.
I am not a Moonphile, but I know the importance of the moon and how it plays into everyday life. I also know that when we were younger, that I promised the moon to you.
Yes. And so I got a moon tattooed on my shoulder.
And I gave you the moon because I stole it.
Oh.
No. So that is one of the things. The moon plays into a lot of themes in a lot of movies. In Moonstruck, it plays into...
It's almost like its own character.
And it does. And one of the characters in the movie mentions the moon several times, and he is just a dear.
Mm-hmm.
I love the guy. He is just the sweetest character in the entire film. Of the entire cast, there's only 2 people in the film who are in love without
any strings, any issues, any outside influence.
They don't have any issues.
No.
That's the big one.
And that's the aunt and uncle.
They love each other.
Yeah,
yes,
the aunt and uncle.
They love each other, and the man sees the moon.
It's Cosmo's moon.
It's Cosmo's moon, but he sees it, and I honestly think it's his moon.
Oh, definitely.
I don't think it's Cosmo's moon. I think he just...
No, I just think that's funny. It's Cosmo's moon.
Yeah.
There's a lot of... the moon is definitely its own character in this movie. I like how it's... When you look up online, what is this movie about or whatever, and you get a combination of how it's an opera, which I can see how it is an opera. It could be seen as an opera, not in the musicality of it, but just
converted easily into opera. Yes.
And how it's over the top because there isn't. I mean, there's a resolve in this movie, but there's not.
It'd be seen as a farce.
It is, but also Shakespearean, and I get that as well. Where
tragic comedy.
Yes. A very Midsummer Night's Dream of without the influence of the gods, though the moon could be be seen as Titania and Oberon and Puck. That basically the moon is all of the Fae and combined, but you can also
I think the uncle would be Puck. Thank you very much.
But also you can also see like a bit of Hamlet in there, but maybe that's just because I feel like Nicolas Cage portrays the character like he is Hamlet.
I lost my hand!
Exactly.
And we'll play that later.
Oh my God, that line.
So, when we open, it's in it's not in the restaurant, but the restaurant plays a part. It's almost a scenic character unto itself.
Yes.
It is where people go to have their conversations. It is where they go throughout this movie to interact in some very distinct way.
Yes. Do you know who did not eat at that restaurant?
Who?
Cher and Nicolas Cage.
It's true. They're the only ones
They're the only ones who did not.
Although, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah, there's no one. Yeah, they never did. Not once.
No, not together.
Not during the movie.
Yeah, not together.
So.
I mean, she was there in the beginning with Danny Aiello's character, but when they go out on their quote unquote date to the opera. They go out for drinks afterwards, but they never go to. They never go out to eat, and they
Yeah.
Though everyone would have known then at that moment because everybody was at the freaking restaurant at that point.
True enough. So how do we open on the scenes?
It is basically Danny Aiello is yeah. It's not the John Mahoney getting the first glass of water.
Every single time.
Every time
He gets a glass of water thrown on him. So yes, he's there.
He's there, but did that happen before or after the proposal?
It happened before the proposal because Danny Aiello looks at Cher and says he can't control his woman.
Oh,
and
yes.
laughs at it. And I'm thinking at that point, I'm going, you gotta leave him. Loretta, you gotta go.
You can do better than this, Loretta. Get out of there.
But does she listen?
No.
No, because it's a screen, and I realize that now.
So, yes, John Mahoney gets a glass of water thrown in his crotch, and Danny Aiello proposes to Cher.
Right. And she makes him get on his knees, even though it will mess up his suit.
Yep.
The porter even makes that comment that it's going to mess up his suit.
Everyone, they're like, ugh. Because God forbid he mess up his suit.
And he gets a ring off his own finger because he didn't have a ring for her.
She's like, where's my ring?
So she does make her demands. This is one of those things in the movie that I'm noticing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Italian-American social circles there, the men all act like they're the godfather. Every one of them act like they're the most important person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Well, knowing damn well that the woman sitting across from them is in charge.
Oh, no, definitely.
And the woman knows it, but isn't going to call him on it, but still calls him on it without calling him on it. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's part of why my grandparents did divorce eventually, because my grandmother is way too headstrong to put up with that, even as a farce.
There's only so much shit you can take.
Exactly. And again, my grandfather was a great grandfather. He was fantastic. He was a horrible husband and a shitty dad. And he got better with age, but I know he was not a good person for a very, very long time. And my grandmother tolerated him until she no longer could tolerate him.
And we're going to hit those notes during this movie because they're all islands unto themselves. They all have their individual stories going on in the movie. But they aren't these characters with just the one dimension to them.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because you think starting out, they're going to be this, this one family trait. The father's the father, loves the mother, and he goes to work, he comes home, and that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And you find out throughout the film, no one's that way.
Nope.
Everyone has not another motive, but they all have the things that are the skeletons in their closets.
I don't think that Olympia Dukakis' character Rose has.
She has one.
Well, she doesn't do anything wrong per se. She's sad because she knows and suspects that Cosmo is cheating on her. And so when she's at the restaurant and she sees Perry, John Mahoney's character, getting yet another... Is that
his name, Perry?
Perry.
I couldn't remember
I believe it is Perry. Getting yet another glass of water thrown at him. She kind of takes pity on him. She thinks it's funny. And they end up eating dinner together. And then he walks her home. But I don't feel like she did anything wrong. I feel like she was just sad and hurt. But she didn't do anything. Like, he kissed her cheek. And she did put her hand on his arm. But I think in that time, being a woman of her age, that would be the proper thing to do when a gentleman's walking you home. Maybe it's not something that you need to do, but maybe a proper thing. I don't know. I just feel like she's not guilty.
From what we're seeing, she's not guilty. In
From
the film,
yes,
she is seen by
her father-in-law.
Her father-in-law, which makes her wrong. Even if she's not actually wrong, he already has the idea planted in his
True, and he does But yet he doesn't bring it up later on.
I know, but it makes her feel guilty, and it doesn't make it better that he didn't mention that.
No.
And he doesn't actually get into it at the end, and we'll go over that.
Yeah.
Before we get there, Cher, or Loretta, is in the bakery.
Mm-hmm.
Is it bakery? Delicatessen? What are we talking about here?
Well, Ronnie has the bakery. I believe it's the bodega is the
It's the bodega. Loretta's in the bodega, which is run by her
aunt and uncle.
The sweet couple.
Yes, she does the books. She's a bookkeeper.
Right.
Which I kept reading beekeeper when I was doing my notes. And I'm like, wait, how is she a beekeeper? A bookkeeper. Oh my God.
I want that to enter the story now. That has to be part of it.
Oh my God. My brain just was not relaying that. And I'm looking at it going, beekeeper. And I'm literally looking at the word. My brain is still saying beekeeper.
That's
I'm like, well, I don't remember this.
Where were the bees?
Where were the bees? I mean, on the roof? It was a nice brownstone.
Bee wrangler for the film? Why didn't we have this information?
I really wished I'd looked up how much that brownstone would be right now. Because that brownstone, I love that house.
Yeah. So what they're establishing here is that Loretta is the bookkeeper, not a beekeeper. So in case anyone's confused. And that she handles the money.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they're trying to get across that she's fairly plain.
Yeah.
Because bookkeepers are plain. It's
the gray hairs that show, and she doesn't wear her makeup, and she dresses dowdy.
She's settled into her life.
Yes.
Because she's a widower.
Yeah, she is a widower.
So she's settled into her life, and she's not trying to impress anyone. Yeah. That's what they're trying to get across.
And she's not marrying Johnny Camerari. She's not marrying him for like love in any way, shape, or form. It's a convenience. He's there. He wants to marry her. Why not?
It'll get her out of her parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, she doesn't want to leave her parents' house. Olympia Dukakis says that she's going to sell the house. And Cher's like, well, why? You didn't sell it when I was married before. And she's like, well, your grandmother was alive. And, they didn't want to do that. And she's like, well, we would live here, but Dad doesn't like Cosmo doesn't like Johnny.
Yes.
And so there's this whole, we'll probably go and live in his apartment, but, not wanting you to sell the house. So, yeah, that's definitely like an Italian family thing that they tend to, obviously, when I had all these people living in my house.
She doesn't love Johnny. I think she loves Johnny in the way that you would love someone for stability.
Mm-hmm.
Not really romantic love.
Yeah, it's definitely
more familial love.
Yeah, I think so.
That kind of thing.
Again, it's more of a sure. Yeah.
I think oddly enough, and it kind of bodes well here. She loves him like a brother-in-law. Isn't that a weird kind of like? I got that dynamic.
Yeah. Well, she also has a hard time with love. That it causes.
I think she's worried about, she's worried about bad luck. A lot of luck plays into this.
Very.
Moon, luck, a lot of
things.
And
a lot of Italian-American families. And I'm not saying all. So if you're an Italian-American family and you have never experienced any of the things that I am saying, please don't take offense. It's just my experience that I'm talking from.
But I am talking from specifically only the things I've seen on TV.
Okay. Well, my Italian-American family.
That's all I know.
We were very superstitious.
I'm just a little stitious.
I am medium amount of stitious, I think. I wouldn't say I'm superstitious, but I am.
I've waited so long for that setup.
I know you were. But my grandfather had a whole shopping list of things that we could and could not do. So, and they were definitely based on superstition. So,
right.
Yes, Cher mentioning the whole, I'm not lucky, things like that, losing her first husband was being cursed. A lot of people even said that to her, that you were cursed,
It plays into it. And it colors how she reacts to anything. And I think for her, marrying Johnny without having that romantic love was a safer bet.
Oh, yeah.
Because nothing was going to happen to him because she didn't invest that emotion into him.
Oh, definitely.
He, on the other hand, I got a real sense he just wanted to own somebody. I don't think he was a bad person.
No.
I think he was a man of his time who didn't put value on women unless it made him look good.
Well, I mean, like you said, he said to, about the other guy saying that he didn't have control of his woman. You don't control Cher, first thing. No. Okay, you just don't.
That would be like controlling Olympia Dukakis.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not something you're going to do.
But I think it's just, again, it's that comfort. We should probably get married, make this final.
Well, that's why when he didn't get on his knee.
Yeah.
And why he didn't have a ring. That seems to me like it's spur of the moment and really unemotional. Because if you're going to do something like that, you should be prepared. Even if you're not prepared with a ring, you should put forth the knee or something romantic. Anything, flowers, something romantic, a poem, something.
Yes.
None of that happened. And I think Loretta didn't care. She really just didn't have an emotion to give him for that.
Oh, no, I agree.
Other than she was going to command him around a little bit to make him squirm.
Mm-hmm.
But she wasn't upset because she didn't have that investment in him.
Yeah, she really didn't. And that's why at the ending it's even funnier, because she doesn't have that investment in him.
But I think that this movie is a lot about, we have a lot of themes here. I'm going to add another one. It's about investment of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of compartmentalization that happens in this movie. Unfortunately, it's mostly on the women to do so.
Yeah.
Not always, but mostly.
But really quick on the superstitions. Well, partially on the superstitions. The sugar cubes in the champagne.
We're going to go to the very end?
No.
Did it happen during the first? I did not notice that.
When she comes home from the restaurant and her dad's in the kitchen.
Oh, that's right.
And she tells him that Johnny proposed to her.
Yes.
And she gets a couple glasses of champagne and she puts sugar cubes in them. And yes, this happens at the end as well. Again, it's not a thing that a lot of people do. A lot of people kind of go, because, it's sugar cubes in champagne, blah, 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 snobby, can't do that. You're going to ruin the flavor. It's a superstitious thing in a lot of families, a lot of Italian families, Italian American families. And it's basically that the devil doesn't want to see you happy. And so you putting the sugar cube in there, basically it's to ward off evil and to basically keep the devil away. It's a superstition. Okay. But the one thing that made me laugh, because it's something, I don't remember who was calling. So do you remember how the phone call in the middle of the night? In the very beginning? I don't remember who was on the phone, but it's Olympia Dukakis. Who died? Who's dead? I am not kidding you. I have heard that.
Wasn't that Johnny calling?
No, because she took him to the airport right after the restaurant. So he knew he was going to Palermo right after that, after he proposed. So he proposed and then went to Palermo to tend to his dying sick mother.
I think I'm losing track of
I forget who called. I forget who called, honestly, but it was Olympia Dukakis and her Who's Dead. Right. And I literally just wrote Who's Dead ? And I grew up hearing that my whole life. If anybody called after a certain time of night, my mother would be like, "Who's dead? Is everything okay? It didn't matter. You could be calling to say hello. You don't have social conversations with anybody after dark on the phone." And my family is immediately.
But that's the way it was for me when I was, on my own. And I was in the military, and even after the military, when I was not around my family. I was states away, sometimes continents away.
Yeah.
And if I got a call in the middle of the night, even if we were continents away and in completely different time zones and date lines, I would ask who died, because I didn't hear from my family unless someone had died.
Yeah.
So I understand that part. You don't have to have a close family for that to be an issue.
No,
for that to be a thing that you ask yourself.
I just always found that to be funny, that line, and it's like flashbacks to family. Yeah.
But I had that as well. It's like when she asked who died, it's like, that's my first question when someone calls the house.
Oh, yeah, and especially that late at night. Even now, I mean, cell phones, and I know who it is, and I'm still like, shit.
Bill
What happened to
collector.
Rose?
Oh.
Or what happened to Martin? You know, it's like...
We're worried about the kids. We always are. When Rose calls, I'm always worried. Our children are adults.
Yeah, I mean,
all
hey.
trained in Kung Fu.
Yes.
And they're armed.
Crab McGraw.
Crab McGraw? Did you just invent a dish?
They're all trained in Crab McGraw.
It's a stew, really.
It's just more of a stew. I mean,
more of a crab stew than a McGraw.
I mean,
oh my god! You just made up an entire thing, and I'm picturing it in my head.
I know, and I was doing that on purpose. So there you go.
So this movie is a departure from what I know about family.
Yes.
It is not something that I am used to, nor is it something I grew up with. And I already have a hard time with like familial dynamics as well as social dynamics, just because autism, and I just don't recognize those cues. I don't even recognize whether or not I should say I have autism. It's not something we discussed, but it's not something I recognize as this is probably something you don't want to say.
So she does have the little conversation with her dad.
Right, and Cosmo.
Yes, with Cosmo, and he's not thrilled.
But I don't think, in general, anyone in her family's ever thrilled about anything, really.
No.
They all seem to be very, like, matter-of-fact about things.
Yeah. But Cosmo is right, you know, he proposed, and a lot of people point this out too, is that he proposes and then he runs off to Palermo to tend to his dying mother.
Right.
And so I know that one of the things that was brought up in like online as well, why does she live in, why does he speak perfect English and yet she is in Italy and doesn't speak English? And somebody was like, well, you know, she could have married an American, and if he died, would have moved back home to her country.
Possibly,
and you know, and just because your children could speak perfect English doesn't mean you can. So I get that he, you know, his mother would be, and I love how he puts it on her to tell his brother.
Right. He tells,
she's never met this man.
He tells Loretta to call his brother and let him know
that he's getting married.
That they're getting married and want to bury the hatchet.
And never mention, don't tell him about Ma. Don't tell him about Ma dying in Italy.
Because Ma don't like him too much.
Ma don't like him either, because apparently he gets pissy with everybody in the family. But...
because he lost his hand. So, it's going to come up a couple of times.
That's going to be bad. So yeah, it's definitely like a dick move on his part, you know?
And...
I'm going to marry you.
Loretta takes it.
But I gotta go.
Yeah, but Loretta takes it in stride.
Because she's indifferent. She's not marrying him for love. So it's like, okay.
And she forgets to contact the brother, who is Ronnie. That would be Nicolas Cage's
Johnny
character.
and Ronnie. Camerari.
Yes. You can tell that a lot of thought was put into those two names for the movie.
Those are Italian names. Johnny and Ronnie.
Johnny and Ronnie. Absolutely.
Oh, geez. So, yeah, she forgets at first, yeah, and then when she's talking to him, because he calls her, and she's all excited.
Yeah, he calls her from Sicily.
Yes.
And is on the phone with his mother dying in the background. She's laying on her deathbed.
Yes.
Which I think is specially constructed for the death.
Oh, yes. And she's like, how was your trip? You know, are you okay? And he's like, I can't talk. Be quiet. You gotta be quiet. You know, like don't get...
But she's still having a normal conversation.
Yeah. And he's like, she's dying. She's dying.
But he said, did you contact my brother?
And she's like, oh shit, no.
I forgot. Totally forgot.
Stuff happened. You know, I have a job. I have a life. But sure. So she calls Ronnie.
Who was, what'd she say, is a barbarian?
Yeah.
Because he slams the phone down when he realizes that she's calling for his brother.
Yes. And why didn't he call me? He's in Palermo. So he
slams the phone down.
Yeah.
And goes back to shoveling coal? I don't know what he's doing in the bakery.
I don't know.
He's shoveling stuff into the furnace
I guess,
so that he can bake the breads.
I guess so. So then she goes to the bakery to talk to him.
You don't want to see how the loaves are baked.
You really don't, especially with all the drippy sweat coming off of Nick Cage.
And
even baby Nick Cage can be a bit of a creeper.
The dirty baking area there.
Yeah. And so she goes and she's talking to him, and then when she sees his wooden hand, because he lost his hand.
I lost my hand. So it turns out that when they were younger, and apparently they both ran the bakery because it's Camerari brothers.
Yes, and this is only 5 years prior to this moment that this happened. So 5 years prior.
Ronnie was a young spry man
with 2 hands
who had 2 hands and was baking. He baked everything. He was a baking fool. And Johnny wanted him to give him some bread, bake him some bread. For his marriage? No, I forgot what the reason was.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was that he wanted.
I don't know what the special occasion was.
It's just he distracted him.
And he distracted him. And at the time, Ronnie was engaged. That's what it was. Ronnie was engaged.
Okay.
And Johnny wanted some bread. And when I guess he was slicing the bread, he got his hand caught in the slicer and it mangled his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he lost his hand.
And the woman that he was with couldn't handle being with a man with only one hand, because apparently that emasculates you.
So the hand that Ronnie is flailing about there with is a wooden glove.
Yeah.
That is fit over Nicholas's perfectly fine hand because he wouldn't cut it off for the film. They asked and he said,
he probably was willing to, but they probably told him no.
Don't do it, Nick. It's not worth it. It's a small part. So he's wearing the wooden glove over his hand, and it doesn't look terrible for that day and age as a prosthesis for him. I
guess so, yeah.
He lost his hand. He tells about how he lost his hand. She's standing there, just kind of non-committal towards it, and a little bit put out that he's given him this diatribe.
Mm-hmm.
But the girl who has been running back and forth answering phones for Ronnie, that works in the, I guess, above bakery area, we're going to call it the money bakery area, where people see all the beets. They see all the breads, and stuff lined up. She's crying. She loves him. Yeah. You can tell she loves him because she's crying and stuff. But that's not going to play into it because you won't see her again.
You'll never see her again.
And Loretta and Ronnie don't like each other. They're arguing with each other.
Yes.
Then she leaves.
Yes. Does she leave or does she go upstairs the first time?
Well, she says, "I want to talk to you. Can we talk?" Oh, yeah. Can we talk upstairs?
Yes.
They go upstairs.
And they have a whiskey.
I see her going out in my mind.
Yeah. They go upstairs. They drink some whiskey.
Right. Yeah. Right. She says, "Do you have any whiskey?" And pours her some, and they are talking about Much Ado About Nothing.
Pretty much. And then they end up in bed.
Oh, yeah.
And I forgot how soon that happens in the movie. Like, in my head, it happens much later. Well, there's more of a build.
He flips the table over.
Yeah. And then grabs her and then...
kisses her.
Yeah, and she's, again, very indifferent.
And then she kisses him back.
"I'm going to take you to bed." And he's just like...
Fine.
Well, fine. Whatever.
Just do it.
I'll just lay here.
So he's holding her in his arms, like carrying her like a baby.
A baby.
Like a baby. And she kind of goes limp and says, "Fine, do whatever, And he carries her to the bed and they start making out. Well, they have sex. I wouldn't say that. There's not a whole lot of lead up to that.
Mm-hmm. And that's when the first moon. So on average, a full moon lasts 3 days. There's the full moon, and then there's the post. And I believe this would be the first night of the full moon.
Right.
And that is when Bobo and the aunt and uncle.
Right. He mentions
the moon, Cosmo's moon.
And he tells a story about how Cosmo was standing outside the building of Olympia Dukakis or Rose.
Yes.
Her character's house, I guess.
Yes, I believe so.
Which would be this house,
Yes.
I would suppose. And is looking into the windows because he's wanting to see Rose. And Cosmo says, I was not there. And he goes, no, I remember you were out there, under that moon.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of calling him out a little bit for trying to peek in on his future wife. I guess. Which is a sweet moment. The man is a sweetie.
He really is.
The uncle is a very sweet man who just loves love, and he loves his wife.
I want to say, and I didn't write their names down, but it's Bobo, right?
I think so.
I want to say that she's Edith, but I may not be right about Edith, but definitely Bobo.
But he loves love, and he is probably the most joyful person in the entire film.
Oh, definitely. Hands down. He really is.
Ronnie says, go out with me.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no.
She's about to get up and leave.
Yeah, and she's like, no, I got to go. And he says, go to the opera with me. You're going to marry my brother. I want one night with the girl that I love.
That he just met.
He loves her now. And
that should be a concern.
And the thing I love, which is opera. So go to the opera with me. And she goes, fine, I'll go to the opera with you.
Yeah.
And then she leaves.
And they go to see La Bohème, which I'm probably mispronouncing, but, it is not my language. That was written by Giacomo Puccini in 1896. And it is basically an opera, and I'm going to utterly simplify it. So if you are a huge fan, please, again, forgive me. It's a love affair between a poet and a seamstress. It is a very...
It is not a opera about the French Revolution.
No.
I don't know why people think it is.
No, but it takes place. It's kind of... Oh, this is such a horrible comparison, but it is kind of like Moulin Rouge in the second set. It's the Bohemian French. And,
it is the Bohemian.
Yeah, so that's, La Bohème is, yeah. So that's the play. That's the opera that they go to see. And while that's happening is when...
Well, before that, let's kind of talk about...
Oh, yes, before they go see the opera.
Something I learned and did not know.
Oh, yes.
Because I'm trans and didn't grow up in that setting, nor did I grow up in a large city, is that I did not realize that beauty shops, and it makes so much sense now that they're called beauty shops, and not just hairstylist or, whatever, they do your makeup. I had no idea they do your makeup.
Not all of them do, but there are a huge significant amount that do makeup, especially if they do weddings and stuff, they'll usually do makeup. But again, in the situation like in this movie, Loretta is dowdy, and you can tell makeup is not a priority.
Not something
for her.
She's done a lot.
So, because they do the whole eyebrow thing and with her, and obviously she's not plucked her eyebrows in decades and stuff.
Her mother doesn't wear makeup.
So
and I think there's probably not a lot of makeup in their house to begin with.
Probably not. So knowing all of that is probably why she was able to, to find a place that she can get her makeup done as well as her hair. And once you cover up those grays, girlfriend, and trim that hair up,
Okay, she's beautiful even at the start of the film.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to be dowdy. Cher doesn't pull that off. But she is radiant.
I mean, yes, we all know Cher has had plastic surgery. We all know she has, defied the age laws because of that. But she's still beautiful.
She's got a beautiful face.
I love Cher.
Symmetrical. She's a beauty. And you can see that just shining out of her character.
And if you ever want to laugh, find her on social media because she is hysterical. And it's not on purpose, y'all.
That's funny. But no disrespect to the southern beauty shops and stuff, but I would never want to get my makeup done here. I don't want to look like I'm from the 80s or 90s. I don't need that.
They're not all that bad. But yes, I can see that. Because, I could see some of them being pretty dated.
But it's something I found out, and I thought that was very interesting, because I didn't notice that during the film, when I watched it many years ago. I noticed it now, and I was like, that's kind of incredible that that's a thing. I didn't even know. But it makes sense because you wouldn't have, especially in these communities where you have these large families in one brownstone or even in smaller apartments.
So you can assume that brownstone has been in that family for a long time, and probably Cosmo inherited it, and then Loretta would inherit it.
Right.
It would keep going through the family.
But there wouldn't be a lot of space to be had because you have large families in them.
Mm-hmm.
So you would not have a large area or any area probably for makeup and things like that, because our makeup takes up a significant area in our bathroom. So I understand that. And I thought that was interesting. And I wanted to put that in there for anyone who sees it and goes, I wonder why they're doing that. That's why.
And I found, like, one of the first things I remember thinking watching this movie is those colors suit her so well.
Oh, yeah.
The colors of the makeup that they do on her, the lipstick, the dress, that it's just
And I love her hair.
Oh gosh.
God,
It's like,
fantastic
hon,
hair.
I've been saying for days now, I've been wanting to get a perm again. And that one, and watching Moonstruck, and that really kind of solidified I miss having curly hair. And if it wasn't for the fact that I would be afraid of my hair falling out because of how much damage I've done to it, I would really like to have another perm. Yeah, she's just beautiful. And and those red shoes, the brownish red of everything. I love it.
When she stands in the mirror and she's putting on the lipstick, very deftly, by the way. I mean, she puts it on like a pro, and you're like, oh, she's done makeup.
And you're like, what? Wait, that negated a whole... No.
I know. But the way she looks in the mirror, you can tell that her character, Loretta, is so pleased with this chance to step out. This is where you get the idea that there's a spark there for Loretta.
Oh, yes.
That she's kind of alive again.
This is exciting for her.
Yeah, it's like she's found a new spark for her life.
A passion.
Right.
She goes to the
the opera.
So, funny fact is when he says, I'll meet you at the Met, and she says, where's the Met?
She closes the door as she leaves, and then she opens it back up again and says,
where's the Met?
Where's the Met?
Except she took a taxi there. She didn't need to know where the Met was. Her taxi driver needed to know.
Right.
And he should know, because if he's a taxi driver in New York City, then he's going to know where the Met is.
But it's funny. It's a funny moment. So that was probably put in because someone had to ask that before.
Yes. But,
so, yeah, she's heading there.
Yes.
She's in the cab. She heads there. And then we also see that someone else is there at the opera.
Cosmo and his secretary?
His paramour.
But isn't she his secretary? I believe
I don't really know that dynamic. Probably makes sense. If we're going to go with the stereotype, go all the way. Assistant. But let's say, yes, secretary.
Okay.
But she is his mistress.
And they kind of don't see each other at first, and so they go into the to the opera. And while that's happening is when Olympia Dukakis goes to the restaurant.
Right. Before all of this, I'm just going to jump back real quick.
Okay.
In the restaurant, before all of this, maybe the first day, is when Cosmo goes to the restaurant with his paramour, with his mistress.
And he gives her the necklace or bracelet or something?
He gives her a bracelet.
Yes.
With charms on it. And he hands it to her, and this is where I thought that thought that I just told you earlier, is that every man plays like he is the godfather bestowing a great gift.
Oh, yeah.
He hands her that bracelet like he is the biggest shot in the entire town.
Mm-hmm.
And all I can think is, Cosmo, you're a cheating piece of shit. So like he thinks he's big, and this is what, he's getting that. He's getting that dopamine hit from being important to his secretary or whoever she is to him.
It's not that he doesn't love his wife. It is the thrill of the chase.
Yeah.
Because he really doesn't want to leave her.
No, and he's not planning on marrying this woman.
No, it's the thrill of the chase. And unfortunately,
he wants to feel like a big deal. Because he doesn't get that at home. And I'm not saying that's anyone's fault. I'm not victim blaming.
No.
I'm saying that is his issue for not understanding he is a big shot to his daughter, to his wife. If they had any kind of communication at all other than just being dour to each other, he probably would have figured that out.
I mean, he's, again, I tend to jump and roll around, but at the end of, right before like a lot of stuff happens, at the end of the movie, he says when a man builds his life on nothing, turns out it has nothing. It's a very sad and,
That's where you get emotion from Rose.
And that's when she is like, your life isn't built on nothing.
She's crying. She's tearing
up because it's like, who the fuck are you? I built this life with you and you're saying it was nothing? Our child is sitting here at this table who is now a grown woman. She's beautiful. She's successful. She has poor love choices, but she's still ours. And you're saying you built your life on nothing? And this is where you are now?
Let's not go too far into the end here because I want to go back.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, but that would...
Yeah.
Oh, he's lucky she didn't reach across the table and stab him with a oatmeal spoon.
So they're at the opera.
Mm-hmm.
Loretta
is
crying because it's
sad.
Actually mirroring.
Oh yes, there's a lot of
situation.
It's not exactly, but there's a lot of similarities in
right.
And
it's a love story.
It is
there's
a love story and
there.
It's sad.
And they're holding hands,
like
a sweet moment between these two. Basically, they've been hot-headed towards each other and not shown a lot of romantic love.
Yeah.
Again, it's sometimes this is that romantic part.
It is, and it's an important thing that they needed because, not to say that fiery, passionate relationships don't work, but they don't work forever all the time. When you have that it's just the fire. There may not be anything when the fire's not there,
Yeah, once you get used to each other, when the fire goes away, do you still have that romantic love
And
there?
so having them have that soft moment at the opera definitely shows that they're going to have those moments in between.
More importantly, it shows that Ronnie has the capability.
Yes.
Whereas Johnny did not.
Johnny is very, very two-dimensional.
Right. And Ronnie...
And a mama's boy.
Ronnie, while he is, let's face it, a ham. He is way off. He's
Nicolas Cage.
Well, that's true. That is true. But if you look at the character Ronnie.
Yes.
Who lost his hand, as he told
My hand.
But also is kind of the black sheep of the family.
Yes.
Because his mother doesn't talk to him, doesn't like him much.
Yes.
And you get the sense that he's probably his father's son.
Mm-hmm.
Fiery.
And then his dad, we can assume, is gone.
Right. Hard-headed. That type of thing. And Johnny is a mama's boy. Which isn't bad. But that's really all he loves is his mom.
Yeah.
And while he loves his brother, he doesn't invest that much time into thinking about it.
No, not really.
So when Ronnie holds her hand, that is a gentle love that you don't get from them previously. And you see that there is more to the very quick relationship. You only have 3 days. You got the moon out for 3 days.
Yeah, so it's got to happen soon.
We're on the second.
Yes.
Day. And they hold hands while this is
Is
playing
it the
out.
second day? Because it's...
Yeah. It was
because the next morning is going
to... It was the next night. Right?
Because the next morning is going to be...
She spent the night at his apartment.
That's the first moon.
Right. So that's the second.
And this would be the second moon. But then we never quite make it to the third moon.
You don't make it to the third night.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I didn't do that wrong.
Pretty sure. Someone will correct us.
Yes.
Or they won't. And we'll just be ignorant. But happy. Ignorant and blissful in
Much like my cat, fat, dumb, and happy.
There you go. So they're holding hands. And then it goes to... I wanted to say a commercial break, but it's an opera. So it's not a commercial break. It's an intermission in which I want the job of the guy who gets to play the xylophone.
The little thing.
To notify people that there's an intermission start and end.
Because it's fancy. Because it's the Metropolitan Opera.
So they are out in the concession area buying their popcorn.
Getting their sodas. Going pee. As you do.
During the intermission, they are all mingling, I guess. And there's drinks to be had. Highballs, I'm sure.
Yes.
Old fashions, which
Moscow
is just
mules.
fashions because it's old.
Yes.
Just fashions. And the Moscow mules. It wasn't the time. And they see, while they're talking, Loretta sees her dad, Cosmo. With the paramour.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to keep using paramour because I just like the name.
Bah, bah, bah.
I like the title paramour. It makes it sound like fancy.
It's fancy.
He gets a look on his face like, not just I've been caught, but what have I done?
Yeah, but then he also sees that she's with somebody who is not Johnny.
He goes, wait a minute, you're not Johnny. As if, they look anything alike at all.
I know. They look as much alike as Dean and Sam Winchester, okay?
Right. So
exactly.
Not
at all.
Not familial at all.
So she goes over and talks to him, and they scoots away the paramour, and
tells her to go up front.
Yeah, and then tells Ronnie to stand there. The dad, Cosmo, he tells him to stand there, and he hadn't even moved. And he's like,
no, he tells him go away.
Oh, I thought he told him to stay.
Yeah, no, he tells him go away or something, and he just
stands there.
So he pulls Loretta away, and Ronnie stands right there, not moving, because he's bullheaded. He's not going to move away.
Yeah.
They basically discuss what they're going to do about this.
Yeah, I know what you did. I know what you're doing. And who are you to talk? Because you're doing the same thing. And
but she's not married. He is
and that's
to
what she
her
says.
Mother.
Yeah, and he's like, you're my daughter. And she's like, yeah, but you're my dad.
Right. He leaves. And doesn't she tell him to get rid of her?
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
but you don't think he's going to do that. It's the mutually assured destruction of having two secrets, each one having a secret on each other.
Ronnie and Cher, Loretta,
Ronnie and Cher.
They go out for drinks because they're like, okay, let's go get something to drink.
Wrong, Ronnie and Cher.
I know. And then, and then you see Olympia with John Mahoney.
Yes.
They went to go get drinks.
And yes, correct.
So before Cher or Loretta goes and has her makeover, she's very distracted. And she's putting her stuff away, and she's at work. She's at the bodega with the aunt and uncle.
That is correct. We missed a key element.
Yes. And she grabs the money, and she goes off and
puts it in the bank bag.
Yes.
Along with the receipts.
And then goes off and has her makeover montage.
Right.
And so the next morning, well, no, it's not even, we're not even there yet. So Loretta and Ronnie go out for drinks, and then they end up back at
his place. Right?
Yeah, back at his place. And she's like, no, I want to go home. And he's like,
baby, it's cold outside.
I know. And in the creeper kind of way. Because basically he says, I want you in my bed. And she goes, okay, fine.
Well, okay.
she puts up a fight, but still.
There is a little bit of difference here. He says, I want you in my bed. I love you.
Yes.
And he puts his wooden hand out.
And she takes it.
Right. And
that's
that move of trust where he puts out his wooden hand because he had been burned before by the woman he loved.
Yep.
Who didn't like
who wouldn't
was
accept,
disgusted by his deformity.
Yes.
And Loretta takes it,
mm-hmm.
which is, I think, maybe unknowingly to him, but definitely for the writers, the test.
Yes. And Rose is eating dinner with Perry.
Right.
And they're having a conversation. It's mostly because she was eating alone and he had pissed off his date again.
And same date.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it was a different woman. No, I think it was a different woman.
Okay, it's a different woman. She threw water on him just like the previous.
Yes. And, and something he says later on when she's like, I'm too old for you. And he's like, I'm too old for me. And that's my problem. I think he thinks he's a younger man and he can play these younger man games and he ain't pulling it off. But so I really feel like Rose is very humbling to Perry. And I feel like he really was interested in her, but she's a married woman and she does not have any interest in being a cheating person.
On top of that, I think that Perry also is exactly the kind of man that's always about the chase.
He's a chaser.
Which is why he doesn't have someone his own age anyway.
Yes.
It's always about the chase, and that's why he lives in an apartment that's one bedroom.
Yep.
And he has this lack of maturity.
Mm-hmm.
He's always going to be at this age.
Yes.
In his head.
Oh, yes. And when he's walking her home, she does, like I said, she puts her hand on his arm, but I think that's just proper.
I don't think it's definitely not just.
I think
that
she
it
enjoys
was a proper
the
thing.
comfort.
I think it was nice for her to feel
wanted
and touched by another person in a way that wasn't sexual.
Exactly.
She was keeping company with someone because she was relegated to housewife, and that's where she was the entire movie.
Yes.
Until she ate out.
And somebody found her interesting. Somebody found her
witty and smart and
somebody
funny.
They wanted to spend time with, and not just because they have to.
Even if it's this cad, it's not about him. For her, it's about feeling wanted and seen. It's about feeling seen.
It's about feeling seen. Well, they are.
I came to the conclusion and pointed at Michelle.
I know.
It's about feeling seen. My hand.
So they are seen. They are seen by Grandpa,
who was walking the many dogs.
The many dogs. The many. They all look alike, though. All those dogs.
Well, they're all different. They're all different breeds.
They are,
which is something I would expect you to notice.
They were all yapping and barking.
But they were all basically one amalgamation of
dog.
A pet.
Yes. And he sees her and he gives her this scornful look like, I know what you've been doing, bish. You should not be doing this.
And even though she had done nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
She felt very guilty because he saw her and made, maybe not an assumption, but she got to play that off in her head, what he may have thought. And
so she basically, refutes him multiple times because Perry keeps trying to say, hey, I'm cold. Can I come in? There's nobody home.
Yeah, it is a baby. It's cold outside situation there as well.
And she's just like, suck it up, Buttercup, and head your way home, man. You're not coming in my house.
He tries to talk her into going in.
And then he tries to
get her into his apartment.
And she's like, no, I'm too old for you. And that's when he says, I'm too old for me. And, and I appreciate that too, because there's some times where I feel like I'm too old for me. The person that I am physically and the person that I am chronologically and the person that I am mentally are not the same three people.
I think you come to that stark realization when you ever try to get off the floor.
Every single time.
Like if you ever want to know if you're old or not, and this is...
It has nothing to do with weight, y'all. It has nothing to do with weight. Mm-hmm.
This is kind of ableist, but for an able-bodied person, if you want to know if you're old, get on the floors.
Sit on the floor for about 30 minutes.
Yeah, try to get back up again. You'll know if you're old really fast.
Yeah, I mean, I have over the past, however many months, 6 months or so, lost almost 50 pounds, and I still have a hard time getting off the floor.
Me too. It's, I mean, we just get older.
Yeah.
So she goes inside and he walks away.
Yes.
And that's the last you see of Perry.
Yes, it is the last you see of Perry. And then it's the morning.
Right.
And Loretta comes... No, not yet.
Is it the morning?
Yes, because... So before Loretta comes home...
It is not the morning because it is late at night.
Oh, it is late at night. I forgot he comes back at night.
And Danny Aiello's character, Johnny,
comes
back with 2 suitcases. It's a bit of a system here where it's the comedic thing.
Yes, he gets in the taxi and
leaves his bags on the ground.
Go back.
And they got to back up and get them. And then he gets out of the cab when he gets to the brownstone of Loretta's family. And he leaves them in the cab, and he has to yell at the cabbie to stop so he can get his bags out.
And what's funny is, I lived in New York when I was little, so really my New Yorker extent in spending a lot of time in New York, but I really didn't spend much time in taxis. But Danny Aiello's character, Johnny, he's like $25, and then he's complaining about that, and I'm going, dude, you just drove from LaGuardia to Brooklyn. $25 is a steal because nowadays that would be anywhere from $40 to $60. So $25
I
in
mean, if you
1988?
adjust for inflation, is probably still fairly steep.
Probably steep, but even then, from LaGuardia to Brooklyn, that's
He
not
kicked
bad.
the door of his cab. I think it's
You
okay
know what?
that
He
he
probably
paid the
threw an extra
25.
15 in there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's okay that he paid the 25.
Just,
So he goes inside.
yes, and she's not home.
Rose is not having anyone's shit right now.
No, she is not.
She's like, what do you want?
Yeah, why are you here?
Yeah.
Aren't you supposed to be in Palermo?
Yeah, and he's like, I want to see Loretta. And she's like, she's not here. Where's she at?
Out.
I don't know. She's out.
She's out.
She is going to be non-committal because she has no idea what anyone's doing.
No.
And she's still ruminating about the fact that her husband isn't home.
Mm-hmm.
And she just gave up her own chance of it, maybe a little temporary happiness that would have caused her probably greater grief later.
Yes.
So she's still trying to come to terms with all that. You see that in Olympia Dukakis.
Oh, yeah.
She is a great actress.
And but she does let him come in and sit, and they talk a bit. And, I thought your mother was dying, and your mother's not dying anymore.
It's a miracle.
It's a miracle. She got up, she cooked us all breakfast, and ate it was the whole thing. And
he needs to talk to Loretta, and we don't know why.
And you don't know why. And
maybe, he's just really excited to marry her. You don't know.
And then Grandpa comes home and gives Rose the stink eye as he's walking up the stairs.
It is important to note, though, that none of the dogs give her stink eye. They just run directly upstairs.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they pottied. They were okay. They were ready to go take a
nap.
They
were fine. Don't worry about the dogs. They're just fine.
What are there, like 15 of them?
Yeah, they're just fine. They drive a Trans Am.
They do. And so then Johnny leaves.
I'm going to make these Office references just to see how many people catch them.
So Johnny leaves, and then it's the next morning. And then Loretta comes home.
No.
No?
Sorry.
I'm still not there yet.
I'm sorry, but there's an important part. She asks Johnny, why is it men chase women?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
And I have to tell you.
I hate this story.
I have to tell you, though, that Johnny, while it's a messed up story, it's pretty insightful for Johnny.
I mean, it's the most insightful he's been the whole movie.
Right. So he says...
In the Bible.
It's in the Bible, Adam's, they make a woman out of Adam's rib.
Yes.
And men chase women because they're trying to fill that hole.
Yes.
That maybe it takes them to complete it. And this is a very cis, hetero response to anything.
And I despise it because men and women have the same amount of ribs.
I know. And
biology people.
I think most
science.
people should know this, but if you don't, men and women
have the same ribs. It didn't happen.
Same biology.
I mean, we don't believe in
different
magic.
Hormones.
You don't believe in magic, but you believe in magic. That's how I feel about. Yes.
But for him, that's as insightful as Johnny gets throughout the entire.
Oh God,
film.
yeah.
Maybe until at the end, and some enlightenment.
Enlightenment, yes, but he's insightful at this moment, definitely.
Right. And she's like, "You're right." Rose is like, "You're right," and she did the pointing thing that I'm doing that I did to you earlier.
You're pointing a lot at me.
I
feel very pointedly.
That's something I saw about this film. There's a lot of gesturing, and I laughed kind of as I was watching it.
That's an Italian
because
thing.
that's you.
I talk with my hands.
You talk with your hands, and I love when you talk.
If I don't sit here during our podcasts playing with my necklaces,
you'll hit the mic.
I will hit the microphone because I talk with my hands. I have to hold stuff so that I don't talk with my hands.
But I love that about the way you do things. I like to watch.
I will knock shit
talk.
over. I talk with my hands so much.
And I think it's hilarious, and I'm having a great time.
It happens at work constantly, and my TAs laugh at me because I'm always knocking things over because I'm talking with my hands.
But there's another part to this film that's along with the hand gestures is that they're all giving each other these looks, like these unspoken words that I'm not getting all of. I'm missing a lot of context because I don't understand what the looks, the unsaid looks are supposed to mean. So I think I'm missing some key components to these social interactions in the film.
It would depend on, I'm trying to think of which ones.
Definitely the ones where these are short moments where Johnny and Rose are looking at each other when she says you're right. And he kind of gives her a look like maybe it's him understanding. Maybe it's him understanding something about what Rose is trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just moments throughout the film when Ronnie and Loretta look at each other. There are just these moments, and maybe we'll go through it again one day and I'll point them out.
Yeah.
But there are definite like looks that are like head gestures and stuff like that seem to be pointing out these key moments for them, and I don't know what they really mean or if it's just an affectation they took in the film.
Huh.
Anyway, watch the film. You can see what I'm saying, and maybe you can explain it to me. Cosmo comes home while they're talking.
Yes.
After she says, that's what it is. That's why they chase women.
Yes.
And Cosmo puts his overcoat on the banister, and he looks over and goes, "Oh, hey, Johnny." And they shake hands.
Are you supposed to be in Palermo?
Yeah. And Rose says, "Where have you been?" And he goes, nowhere. Everywhere. Different places. I forget what he says exactly.
Yeah, I forget what he says
he
exactly.
Dismisses it.
He does dismiss it. Because he knows
and
he done screwed up.
That Rose is... She's not devastated because it is Olympia Dukakis. I don't know how you devastate that kind of woman. And Rose is a tough bird.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not devastated, but she's boiling.
Mm-hmm.
And
she's holding it in because she's ready to say something, but she needs to sort it in her head first.
Right. He says he's going to bed. And that's where we get the next morning.
Yes. And that's when...
Well, Loretta is walking the streets. Happily. She's kicking a can.
She is kicking a can. Can kicker?
She's kicking a can in a very carefree way. And you can see she's daydreaming.
I got the booty.
Well, no, she's daydreaming about this dreamy time she had at the opera with a man that she really likes.
Yes.
And they spent the night together, and she's thinking about things. This is the most dreamy you see her be.
Oh, yeah.
So she's in love.
Yeah.
She's kicking this can in a very childlike way.
Yeah.
In these ruby slippers.
Yes.
Which I don't know if that's in the film to
kick a can?
No, the ruby slippers. If that's part of
well, they're kind of like a brownish red, and they are very pretty. I don't know if it's like a Dorothy.
Well, they were very shiny. They were
sparkly.
Sequined.
Yeah,
they were sequined.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was a callback to Dorothy, and that she's maybe coming back to herself. Maybe she's leaving. I don't know. Maybe that signifies something we could look up, or someone could tell us.
Yeah, the symbolism of it. If there was actually any symbolism
but
intended.
They focus on the shoes a lot.
Yeah.
During that sequence, and her kicking the can.
And she's wearing, like I said, rich colors, where before she wore very drab grayish colors.
Right. So it's kind of like the black and white to the color film. But she comes into the house, into the brownstone, and she's taking stuff off. And it's early morning, so her mother is up, Rose.
Making breakfast.
You
got a love bite on your neck.
She makes
Cover
the
that
comment,
up.
right, about the love bite. And she says, Johnny was there last night, and he's coming over this morning.
But I thought he was in Palermo.
Right. And so she's panicking. She's trying to get change. She's trying to put her hair up. She's got to take care of this love bite.
Yes. Because then Ronnie comes there.
Well, they hear somebody knocking at the door, and she's like, oh, crap. And she starts trying to get taken care of, and she goes, answer the door, Mom. And she's like, no, I am not doing that. You deal with it. And then she runs upstairs, so Rose does end up going to answer the door.
Yeah.
And you're thinking it's going to be Johnny, but it is Ronnie, the younger brother, Nicolas Cage. I lost my hand.
And what does Rose say to him? You've got a love bite on your neck.
Right. He introduces himself. Instantly, everyone in this family likes Ronnie better than they like Johnny.
Well, he's very polite, and he's they
don't know him.
They don't know him.
They don't know him to dislike him yet.
No, so they don't know yet that he can be a fiery asshole who has lost his hand.
I lost my hand. But she lets him in. Mm-hmm. He comes in and he sees Loretta, and they're talking, and she's like, "You got to go. You know, Johnny's gonna be coming over."
And then Rose goes, "Do you want some oatmeal?" And she's like, "No, Ma." And he goes, "I would love some."
And he's polite.
He's very
so
polite.
much Nicolas Cage like in this film so far.
And then Cosmo.
What you have to say, Nicolas Cage can be very endearing or very jarring.
Very, yes.
So it could be one or the other. He could either Peggy Sue Gets Married you or Valley Girl you. I just thought of another one, Valley Girl. It was so good. That was a good film.
You know what movie I actually liked of him that we watched recently? Oh my God, I can't think of it now. The one with the vampire.
Vampire's Kiss?
No.
No, we haven't.
No.
Renfield.
I liked Renfield.
That was a great movie too.
But now I kind of, I don't, you know how I feel about most horror movies, but
don't make me yell in the mic. I'm pegging out the...
I don't really like most scary movies, but I kind of want to see Longlegs.
I do too. I want to see it.
I kind of want to vomit though.
Why?
Because for things I've seen, it really, I'm not a big fan of scary movies. I would rather read a scary book than watch a scary movie. Yeah,
but we should go see it. We never really see any other movies.
I think it's already out of the theaters.
Is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was in theaters now.
I don't know. I'll have to check that out.
We don't know things.
No, we don't know shit.
I didn't say we don't know shit. I said we don't know things.
I don't know shit.
Okay.
I have to write it down.
I know stuff, but not all the things.
Yeah. I mean, I know stuff. I just don't know shit.
Okay.
So
Ronnie sits down.
Yes.
And then Cosmo comes down and sits down.
Mm-hmm. And he introduces himself, and he's like,
And then Grandpa.
Grandpa comes down, and Grandpa ain't got shit for nobody.
Yeah, he tells Cosmo, you gotta pay for the wedding.
Yes, because he is like, you're gonna destroy your family, you're gonna tear it apart by this weird superstition, because Cosmo was like, well, you've already been married once before.
I'm not paying for it.
I'm not paying for it. And she was like, fuck you too. And you know, you can't, and that she was cursed. He was one of the first ones to say she was cursed because she'd already had a marriage and he died. And she's like, well, I didn't like kill him, you know?
Earlier in the film, Grandpa takes the dogs to a cemetery. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of old men there who are obviously his friends. And they're standing around this gravesite. The dogs are peeing and pooping.
Yes,
whatever they're
they
doing.
do. So no dogs allowed, but they were all there.
They're discussing the marriage that Cosmo has to pay for it or whatever that is they're talking about. So when he's been ruminating on this.
Yes.
So when he comes down, he says before he sits down,
this is what I've got to get this off my chest. Boom.
Right, you got to do this. And Cosmo goes, fine.
Sure. And she's like, oh shit, you don't pay for my wedding.
But he says that while Loretta is sitting next to Ronnie at the table. Knowing that they've both been together and
they're going to destroy this other one, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, that this is about to happen.
Yeah.
And then
Grandpa sits down, and then Rose sits down. Right. And Rose says, you have to leave her. And he knows exactly. Well, no. First she's like, have I been a good wife?
Right. She says it in a way of, you need to address this, what I'm about to say. And
he's like, well, yeah, you've been a good wife. And then she's like, then you need to leave her. And he's like, he stands up and he like slams his hand down.
And you think he's about to go off.
And then he sits down and goes, okay. And you're like, what was the point of all of that? So
I think the point of it was that he wanted to be mad, but he knows it's about him. He did the thing that was wrong, not her.
Exactly.
So he's mad at himself.
For cheating on her.
For being a foolish man.
Yes. Because that's when he says, you know, you built your life on nothing. And then she was like, nothing? Are you kidding me? I mean, it's...
And I do kind of get what he's saying. I think what he was meaning when he said it is that I created nothing out of this. This was me making it nothing. Not him saying he made nothing. He made this nothing by doing what he did.
Yeah, but unfortunately she didn't take it that way. And I would have done the same thing. And I would have been mortified what the hell? You know,
Right.
I spent my life taking care of you, cooking and cleaning, because you know she was the housewife. And you know she took care of that family.
And then she brought out the shotgun and shot him in the chest.
Yeah, but then the doorbell rings and it's the aunt and
She
uncle.
doesn't actually shoot him with the
No.
shotgun. Just like
So it's the aunt and uncle,
There's no shotgun.
Bobo and Rita.
The love couple.
Yes, they come in and she's like, "Wait, why aren't you at the shop?" And they're like, "Well, we were worried, we were concerned, and it's because when Loretta left, she was so discombobulated. She took the bank money, you know, the money for the bank."
Well, they didn't want to accuse her, so they say it very sweetly.
Yes.
The
money,
the deposit at the bank,
and
she goes,
she's like, "Oh shit!" She didn't mean to.
and they are relieved.
Yes, and they're very sweet about it. And again, it's a case of she got in her head and forgot to.
Especially about Ronnie.
Yeah, and you know, I can understand that. She had, you know, that was a big deal.
Right.
You know, she got all fancy for him. So they're all...
They sat down at the table.
Yes, and that's when I'm having a flashback of my childhood and having all the family around the table. And half of them not fitting, but we're all squeezing in anyway. You know, they're not at the restaurant, or they're not at the bodega, but they're going to sit down and have some oatmeal. Because it's food, Italians, we got to feed them. And then... Johnny arrives. And he's like, you know, "I got to talk to you." And he's like, "Oh, Ronnie, you're here."
He's surprised.
And then she's like, "Yeah, I need to talk to you."
But in the most casual way possible, surprised. He goes, "Oh, Ronnie, hey."
Yeah, and he's like, you know, "Hey, I got to talk to you. Come out here." And she's like, "No, I need my family." And then he's like, "My mother made a miraculous recovery, and I have to call off the wedding. Because as soon as I told her that we were getting married, all of a sudden, she was healed." It's like, that's such an Italian mom.
This goes into the whole luck thing where he thinks that if he breaks this thing, if he marries her,
then mom's going to die. You know, mom looked like she was 90.
And then Ronnie and Loretta...
Well, first, you know, Johnny, when he says we can't get married, Cher, who was going to break off the wedding anyway, Loretta, she looks at him and she goes, "Are you kidding me?" You know?
"I got this ring on my finger. It's a promise."
And even Ronnie's like, "What?"
It's a promise. She was... I think a lot of these times they're mad about the principle of the thing.
I know.
And I keep hearing that in my head. It's the principle of the thing. And that is what she's mad at.
Yes.
Just the principle of the thing.
And so, I know, again, I keep comparing it to family and my experiences. But I don't know if I ever told you this, but when my mom and my stepdad, they're 7 years age difference. And my stepdad is the baby of the family. And when they got together, my mom already had me and my sister. My mom had already been married 2 times. Now, keep in mind, my mom... I am 7 years older than my middle sister. So there was a big gap in between weddings. Okay, so it wasn't like she got married and she got pregnant. You know, there was a huge gap between all of her children. And so when my mom and my stepdad were dating, now his parents, very Italian. Now his dad loved us. His mom... she warmed up later on after they got married, but my mom always don't tell her you guys have different dads. That woman went to her deathbed thinking that Kristen and I have the same dad.
Oh.
Because it was bad enough my mom was divorced.
It's a love lie.
Yeah, it was bad enough she was divorced, and then to know that she was divorced twice? Oh, well.
For shame.
For shame. Shun the harlot. I mean, again, she's already 7 years old.
Since I've seen a good
She's
shunning.
robbing the cradle because, you know, he was a grown adult, but they were 7 years between them. And yeah, I mean, granted, now they've been married for 30-something years, but oh gosh, probably even longer now, but whatever. But it's always been a funny thing because that was an Italian family too, that, you know, the habits. Let's say Italian American. Maybe it's just the New Jersey, New York Italian Americans I'm relating to. But yes.
Right, because you really don't know what's happening.
Because I really don't know.
At all.
Exactly, none at all. But yeah, so then Johnny goes, you know, he's like, we can't get married, da-da-da. So she throws her ring at him. And then Ronnie stands up,
and says,
Loretta, will you marry me? And she's like, where's my ring? And he reaches over the table.
The ring, when she threw it at Johnny, it fell on the floor, and Johnny had bent down and was on his knees picking it up, and he had it in his hand.
She didn't make Ronnie get on his knees.
No, she didn't. But so Johnny's got it in his hand, and he's watching this happen. He goes, what?
And Ronnie just reaches over.
Ronnie says, because she asked,
where's
the
my ring?
And he says, I'm going to need to borrow that from you. And he kind of hands it to him. You can tell he's really not that affected by it. He's surprised, but he's not upset.
It's not a love match. So
Right.
there was no heartbreak. It was just a convenience.
Right. But he hands Ronnie the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, you can tell that the brothers kind of bury any animosity they have towards each other.
Yeah, I think so.
And it cuts after he put the ring on her.
Yeah.
To them laughing at the table.
Yep.
Johnny and Ronnie laughing at the table. And you can tell that in this moment, this family is maybe not good to go, but they're healed.
They're healing.
I love this part. This is my favorite part of the film, other than my hand.
So that scene, that whole kitchen scene, it wasn't going right. So the director, what he did, Norman Jewison, he kicked all of the camera crew out and then made them rehearse it like it was a stage play over and over and over again to get the mood and the blocking right. And when they had it perfect, then he figured out where to put the cameras.
That's a smart idea.
Oh, really, though?
I mean, he's professional, but that's a smart idea.
Oh, really, it is.
Take away all the distractions, because obviously they're not. If you do the same thing over and over in the same setting, you have to change something.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't change anything, you're still in your head about what you're supposed to do. He took that away, so now they're not in their heads.
Yeah.
It's the yips cure.
Yep.
You and I know about that.
So yes, and then they drink their champagne with the sugar cubes in it.
Right.
For breakfast.
And it's a loving moment for everyone.
Yeah. And that's pretty much the end. A la familia. Salud.
So we've both seen this film before, and we saw it at different times, and we have different outlooks. You have it more from
the familial.
A familial side where you understand these people and the things. I'm looking at it from outside where I see it from a foreigner's aspect, because when I was younger, a kid especially, I knew nothing about. It was all mob movies and things like that. I didn't know
and that's
those.
the thing is, and that's why I think I like it, is it's a definite distance from. It's a definite distance from mob movies. Usually when you get that insight into the Italian-American family, it's a mob movie.
But even so, I keep mentioning they all feel like they're the Godfather because they all act like it, because I think that's just the way the Godfather acts, is very self-important.
It is. And it's funny because I always comment about when I was in high school and growing up in the town I grew up in, which is a huge Italian population. And it's definitely, the guys all think they are. They are all in the mob. They're all in the mob, and they're all from Sicily.
All made men.
And they're all from Sicily. Y'all, I'm going to tell you this now. If you believe that your family is descended from Sicilians, it's impossible for us all Italian Americans to be descendants of Sicily. It's a small island. It's impossible.
I mean, it's a large island, but it's not big enough to support all of those people.
I can't tell you how many people I've met in my life. Oh yeah, my family's from Sicily. Bullshit. You know where my family's from? The other side of Rome, from a town called Avezzano. Literally.
Where they get their name from.
That's where my family gets its name from. We don't know the story of how, or if it was an Ellis Island screw up, but So
that's entirely possible, because they'd ask where you're from.
Oh yeah, and they wouldn't understand the English. And I know that the brothers came over before my great-great-grandfather came over with my grandfather. No, my grandfather was not born.
Sense.
No, it would be my my great-great-grandfather. And my grandfather was born here, but his mother was Irish and my great-grandfather was Italian. So yeah, it's a long, crazy, stupid, why I even know.
No, it's interesting.
But
But no,
it's impossible.
not everyone from the States who's got Italian in their family, even, distantly or not so distant, is
It's
from
just
freaking
not.
Italy. Or from
Sicily. I mean, I know that, like, with my stepdad's family, I believe his family's from Tuscany. So, I mean, it's
Still a place we know.
a place we know.
We've heard of it.
We've heard of Tuscany. I mean, you've heard of Rome. If you keep going east on the other side of Rome, you'll hit Avezzano. I do know that.
There you go.
So, I mean, it's not a very large country, people, but you're all picking the smallest part of this very small country. And then you're claiming it as your identity. Now, I have done that my whole life. My Italian American heritage has been my identity because of the family I grew up in. I never have carried an Italian last name, but I was so exposed to that lifestyle. So when we watch a movie like Moonstruck, it's a picture. It's opening a window into that lifestyle.
It's like a photo album.
It is.
You get that nostalgia?
Very much so, but without the guns and the murder and the mob.
Which is a stereotype.
Which is a stereotype.
Really hard to get across, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There are many mob movies I like. The Godfather is not one of them. I have an opinion. I have feelings. I can't express them at the moment. We're not going there. But Goodfellas. Love Goodfellas.
Because of Ray Liotta?
No. It's always about Joe Pesci. It's always about Joe Pesci.
I like his eyebrows.
Yeah, well, it's never about Ray Liotta.
I liked him.
I mean, he was pretty in that movie, but it's never been about him. No, I actually don't even have any favorites in that movie. But my issue is that all movies that focus on Italian Americans, very few of them talk about the family and talk about the dynamics. Where Moonstruck maybe doesn't talk about the dynamics, but you feel
you're
the camaraderie. You feel, and you know damn well that there are more cousins and aunts and uncles involved, but you just aren't seeing them in the movie.
This is a 2.5 day shot.
Exactly.
Of a family. You get that knowledge from them in 2.5 days.
Weirdly enough, you know what other movie I feel, even though it's more of a different culture, but it gives you that same insight, is My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I love that movie because that movie is the chaos of my family, where like Moonstruck shows you the culture of traditions,
right,
and that camaraderie. My Big Fat Greek Wedding shows you the insanity and the craziness of getting all these crazy people together. And then you get all the cousins and stuff like that. So I always related to that movie too, because even though it's Greek, it showed a lot of the stuff I grew up with as well. So yes, I do. I think that's part of why I really like this movie, is because it is that little window that's not your typical.
So having that, how do you feel about the movie? How did it make you feel?
It still gives me that romantic. It's a dream. It's that you got the family there, but it's the most, to me, obtainable. You get that fiery, passionate relationship that should not work, but it's going to work, and they're going to have a happy ending, even though in reality there's a higher chance of them not having that happy. It's unrealistic
for longevity.
It's very unrealistic.
So what are your feelings, though?
When
you watched this movie before?
Over when I was younger, again, it was a fairy tale, and then as an adult, I still it gives me warm cozies. I don't think I related to it as a younger person on the familial level as I do now. I think when I was younger, seeing it was definitely about the relationship between Loretta and Ronnie and Johnny, and really just focusing on that and then the cheating and But now, as an adult, I kind of feel the nostalgia of my family of when I was younger.
That's valid.
Yeah, because we're not like that anymore. We're not close. We're all spread across the U.S. We don't live in each other's back pockets or in each other's houses. I couldn't imagine having all of those people in a house again. But as a kid, it was amazing. It was fun.
And I imagine you missed a lot of the dynamics that made it probably harder for the adults.
Oh, definitely. Heck, trying to feed all these people, but
for me, as when I watched it as a kid, it felt claustrophobic. It's too many people.
That makes sense.
All together. Especially because even, with a family of I had 2 siblings and then we had 2 parents.
Yeah.
And we were never really, sure, we may be at the table for like 15 minutes to eat, but we weren't together all the time. We all were in different areas of the house or out somewhere. And we didn't have that really close-knit family dynamic. Sure, we would go to war for each other, but we weren't hanging out all the time. We were doing our own things.
Yeah.
And it felt claustrophobic to me when I first saw it. I was like, wow, I don't know if I would like having this many people in a house,
Oh, yeah.
And it's not a lot of people, but you just get the sense that there's a lot of people. You got the grandfather upstairs, and you have this little brownstone with all the people down.
Mm-hmm.
It just seemed very claustrophobic to me. It's too many people at one time.
And if if you understand the layouts of those brownstones, they're narrow.
Right.
And there's multiple levels, but they're very narrow. And so it makes it feel like it's closed in.
Right. And then I didn't understand the city life because I grew up in a very rural area. So it felt even closed in there as well. It's like there's just too many people and the shops are just too closed in. Even the bakery is underground. You got a sense.
Well, that's the ovens.
Yeah, but but that's where the bakery happened. They sold it on top, but below the earth is where they were baking stuff. And everything about this film seemed to want to put you in the mood of feeling closed in, of feeling this oppression around you.
Yeah.
But they were making it work and they didn't seem to notice it.
No.
It's almost like they wanted you to notice it, but they don't.
True.
It's like you were watching ants.
Well, that is kind of New York City, though, because you are on top of each other and you don't notice it when you're there.
But that's how I felt as a child. And now, looking back at it, I don't have any nostalgia associated with it because I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to tie me to this. But I have a sense of longing for that kind of situation because I am older now and it would be great if we had our kids coming in and out. And, because our kids are kind of all in different places and I love that for them. It'd be nice if they stopped in to chat, people coming by. It just, not that I'm that kind of person. I am not a social person, but I can appreciate that they have this social life that kind of centers around the home. I like the idea of it. Yeah. In practice, would I like that? No, I'm not a social person. I'm an introvert. But it does speak to that. And I even though it's a whirlwind romance, I want it to work out for Loretta and Ronnie.
You want it to. You want to be her.
I'm happy at the end the same way I'm happy for Ant-Man when the stepfather isn't a jerk against stereotype.
I love that.
That they generally love each other. They don't hold this animosity as an ownership for the wife. It is, they have a shared love for the family. And that is something I see at the end here, is that even though Johnny's not getting married, he's still part of the family now.
Yeah, they didn't even hesitate to include him in toasting and, that he was going to be a part of the family because of Ronnie. But even then, I don't think...
I think they liked him more because he's not marrying their daughter.
And I honestly think that even if, say Ronnie was not his brother. What if he was just a total stranger she happened to meet and the same thing happened, and Johnny was there to say, okay, we're not going to get married, I think they still would have welcomed him in.
No, they still would have, but I think that, I don't know, I get the sense that, because I'm inserting it myself, is that because Johnny is Ronnie's brother, that he is part of the family, and they're going to treat him like part of the family. He's not just Ronnie's brother now.
Yeah. He's Johnny, Johnny Camarero. And what's funny is, like, I love when they went to the door and they let him in and they're like, it's Johnny Camarero. And it's like, we know who it is. It's like, why are you using his last name like that?
Bob Vance
Bob
Refrigeration.
Vance. Exactly.
So I enjoyed it the second time. Well, I say the second time, but really the final time of us watching it this time before talking about it, is that I got to see these dynamics as an adult and understand kind of maybe what be playing out. I didn't notice everything because, again, I don't get a lot of social dynamics from casual conversations. I have to really delve into it. I have to look things up a lot of times to figure out what people are trying to really intonate by their facial expressions or their head nods, stuff like that. But I'm appreciative of watching it this time because it gave me a new look at an old film.
True. Again, it for me, definitely nostalgia and the romance of it. It's just a sweet movie. I mean, it's got its issues, but it's a sweet movie.
I'm not happy with the cheating. That's
no.
hard to get past.
It is hard to get past. Like, I would not forgive Cosmo, and I would make his life hell.
And I'd be mad at Loretta too.
I would be mad at Loretta as well.
But
they weren't. Yeah, I mean, I would have a hard time with that one only because there was no love between her and Johnny. The love was more of a brotherly, sisterly love. So
I think it worked out the best it could.
Yeah. So honestly, for her, I wouldn't be mad. I'd be mad at him because he has this wonderful wife who loves him and has taken care of him. And he decided he needed to up his machismo by going out and hooking up with his secretary.
Right.
That is wrong. Again, not saying what Loretta did was wrong, but she didn't have the same invested emotions and relationship
sure
that he has with Rose.
True enough. So usually when we're talking about a film, I have a firm idea of whether or not it's going to pass the Castellini test. This time I'm really not so sure. So let's go through it. We follow the Castellini test at the end to see if it's going to have any feminism in it. Let's see if it displays some kind of equity towards women or just equity in general.
Okay.
Number 1, there have to be at least 2 named women characters with at least 5 lines of dialogue each.
Rose, Loretta, and Rita.
True. 2 of those are very strong women. Rita, I don't know so much because she didn't have that much.
But she does have enough to pass.
You get a sense that all 3 women are very strong, that there's an undercurrent despite the fact that they think they're in a patriarchy, that the men think they're in a patriarchy.
Yeah.
The women run it right underneath their noses.
Italian women are good like that.
You get that sense in the film is what I'm saying.
We let them think they're in charge and then...
and then cut them.
Yes.
So 2 named women characters with at least 5 lines of dialogue. That is a pass because we know they're at least Rose and Loretta.
Yes.
Number 2, those characters must have a conversation, but not necessarily with the other woman. Either not about their partner or with their partner, future or current, and not be about their relationship. It's going to be harder.
Every conversation is about a relationship because they're all talking
their relationship because we're not talking past, future or current.
Well, like Loretta, when she's talking with Ronnie, they're talking about past relationships.
Past relationships,
and
not future or current.
when she's talking with Rose, she's talking about her relationship with Ronnie, or not Ronnie, Johnny, but mostly they're talking about the house being sold and her own issues there.
I think this is harder, and maybe we can ask our listeners to maybe send us an email or something, but what they think about this. But I think it's a pass.
I think it's a pass.
Even if it's very close, I still think it's a pass, because I think that Rose has a conversation with Perry.
And Loretta has a conversation with Ronnie about the play.
Right. And it's not about their relationship.
No.
She talks about her past.
And he talks about his. And
but the past is not a condition of this.
Yes.
This role. So I'm going to say it's a pass.
I'm going to say it's a pass.
And if anyone disagrees, please let us know why.
Mm-hmm.
Be specific. Detail it out. No, I'm joking. Just tell us what you think.
MLA citation.
Yeah, exactly. Number 3, at least one of the women has to be integral to the plot, meaning that if she were written out of the film, it couldn't reach the same ending.
Oh, yeah. Well, without Loretta, there'd be no story.
This is a while you were sleeping scenario in which, without Loretta...
because she's the main character.
You're not going to get this ending at all.
No.
It's just going to be a dysfunctional family that falls apart.
I mean, while she may not be the one on screen all the time, this is her story. This is Loretta's story, and everything is happening because Loretta is the main character.
It starts with Loretta.
Mm-hmm.
The film begins with Loretta. It ends with the family at the table.
Mm-hmm.
But Loretta is the linchpin for that family.
She is, yes. So yeah, no, it couldn't work without her.
So it passes the Castellini test.
Yes.
So we're going to say this is a feminist film, and that there is equity despite the inequity that often pops up between men and women in this frame of reference. We're talking about the Italian idea that the man is in charge of the family, though the woman runs it.
I mean, I think that even if Rose was not in the movie, it would not work. And I think even with Rita, well, maybe not so much Rita, but I think that Bobo would be so sad without her.
I think that Rita's necessary in the fact that Bobo is what carries love. Bobo is the Cupid.
He is.
He is the
hopeful,
He's
romantic.
The one that mentions the moon in the first place.
Yeah.
He is the one who, when on the second night, when the moon is full and everyone is looking at the moon in their different places, and Ronnie and Loretta are looking at the moon from his apartment after they've had sex and fall in love. And Bobo is there talking about the moon because he's looking at it. He wakes his wife up. Rita, wake up. Look outside. What? There's a moon.
Cosmo's moon.
It's Cosmo's moon. And this man is the Cupid. Without him, I don't think love would fully be in that family at all.
I don't think so. I don't think they would have that, even the role model of love. And I think he is the role model.
I do. I think those two, Rita and Bobo, are the ideal of love for this family.
Yeah.
And I think they're the rule set by which they compare themselves.
I would be like, I want to have a relationship like Aunt Rita and Uncle Bobo. That would be my goal.
Right. And I think Loretta finds that at the end with Ronnie. I think Johnny finds something other than his mom to love. I know that's a stretch because we don't get that, but I like to think that Johnny's redeemable.
I think so too.
I like to think that he wanted his brother's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that he knew he couldn't carry that burden because he's not good at that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would have done it.
Yeah.
And I think he was smart enough to maybe realize that Loretta was good at that.
Yeah, and she was too good for him. But yeah, also, and he is a mama's boy, and he doesn't want to lose his mother. So he's going to do what he has to do to keep his mom in his life.
But he also gains this other family, and I think that's important. I think that's going to play out for him because let's extrapolate beyond this movie because I do that all the time.
It's hard. It's expensive to fly to Palermo from
But
LaGuardia.
when Mom dies, he still has his family here.
Yes.
He still has people that will support him and love him.
And now he's got his brother back, so he'll still have that.
Well, he'll have direct familial, and then he'll have his secondary,
Yeah.
his chosen family with his in-laws, which I think is important because for me, who has lost my family almost to its entirety, except for a few individual cousins and nieces, is that it's important to me that that your family is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I might not be happy with a lot of your family.
Mm.
I might have disagreements right now.
Yeah.
I can be mad at your family.
Yeah.
And still love them.
Oh,
I don't stop loving them because I'm mad at them.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not mad at them. I'm just disappointed.
I'm mad and disappointed, but I can still love them. I can still be part of that family and love them and still be both things. No one is one thing. And I don't think that they're one thing.
No.
I definitely don't. I see each individual as the layered onion that they are. We are a multitude of all things, and we are faulted and flawed.
Mm-hmm.
We have those things because we're human beings. And in this film, you see those flaws.
Oh, definitely.
Cosmo has the flaws. I know Olympia Dukakis doesn't.
Because she's perfect.
But Rose plays those flaws. So we have all these flaws with these characters, but despite those flaws, or maybe because of those flaws, we find that these are human beings who are part of a family and they make it work because they love each other. Ultimately, there's love there.
Yes.
And I think that's important. I think part of that feeling that you get watching Moonstruck isn't about the comedy.
No.
The comedy's there.
It's there, but it's not slapstick. It's definitely lighthearted comedy. It's a romantic comedy. It's what it is.
Right. I think it's less romance.
Yeah.
And more about familial love.
It's a love, yeah. It's definitely a love story of multiple facets.
So you can find Moonstruck on Roku Channel, Pluto, and is it Tubi or Tubby?
Tubi.
Tubi. All of those with ads. If you want to watch it without ads, you can go to Prime Video and rent it on SD for $2.99, HD for $3.99. And watch the film. Give it a shot. I know it's older, but I think you can find a lot of things to appreciate about this film, especially a beautiful Cher.
Oh
I
my
mean, just
God, she's so beautiful.
And maybe remember that these people, though they've passed away, have left a legacy behind of these films. And it'll give you some insight to the artists and the works that they left behind, that the things that they did are important.
Definitely.
And we should hold on to those things. It means something.
It does.
So thank you for sharing this emotional journey through Moonstruck, in which the Castorini clan find their way through luck, through trials and tribulation, and ultimately through familial love.
And the moon.
And the moon, which plays a very important key.
Mm-hmm.
This has been Once More with Feelings with Beth and Michelle. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at OMWFPod. Visit our page at oncemorewithfeelings.podbean.com or send us an email at omwfpod@gmail.com. Take a moment and subscribe and rate us on iTunes. We'd appreciate that. And thank you, fans, for leaving comments.
We do appreciate it.
We really appreciate it. We got some on YouTube.
Yep.
Which is fantastic, and we're so glad to have you join us.
Yes, and we do love to hear from you guys.
We're very glad that, of all places, YouTube is listening to podcasts.
I know.
I think that's fantastic. We're glad to have you as part of the podcast family.
Yes, yes. And if you have any ideas or suggestions, yes, never hesitate. Please contact us.
Things you want us to see and discuss, send it to our email or on our Blue Sky. We'd be happy to take a look
Oh, definitely.
and do an episode on it.
And subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. We would like to someday have sponsorship and a Patreon and have more interaction with our listeners.
We want to do some live.
Mm-hmm.
I've already talked about, as we did with the Hard Nut special, we want to do some more crafts and unedited watch-alongs.
Because that was fun.
Fantastic.
That was fun.
We had a great time. And I am not a person who has a great time. But I had a great time. I thought it was fantastic. I get nervous during these things. I like to be able to edit, but that unedited, even though it maybe has a lot of ums for me, I had a great time doing it. I actually lost myself in the process.
Just fun and enjoyable. And honestly, sometimes I would forget that the play was something we needed to pay attention to.
Thank you so much for listening in.
We appreciate you.
Glad that you're joining us here every week. We release these on every Monday at 9 a.m. without fail until we fail.
And yes.
But for right now, we haven't failed.
And since I'm the one in charge of the Instagram, I am the one who's usually late at getting all of the Instagram information.
Only because she forgets.
Well, also, I can't do it from work.
I know, because the internet is bad.
It's bad.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. And until next time, bye.
That's bad blood between you and Johnny?
Yes, that's
not Johnny's fault.
I don't care! I ain't no freaking monument to justice! I lost my hand! I lost my bride! Johnny has his hand! Johnny has his bride! You want me to take my heartbreak, put it away and forget?